Hello everyone, Sunderek here. In today's video I'm going to talk about the fact that some people recently are mentioning that Keqing after 1.7 might rise to tier 0 or tier S. And however, I believe that won't be the case for most people's Keqing. Now, before we get started, if you like the content, please consider subscribing. Thank you, and let's get started. So the main reason people are bringing up this argument is because Keqing will be receiving a buff on 3 fronts once 1.7 drops. Of course, the first is the buff regarding Electro and Elemental Mastery. She will be benefiting from both of them. That is already active in 1.6. The second buff she will be receiving is the new artifact set, Reminiscence of Shimenawa, and that set is potentially very good on her. And the last piece is the new 5-star sword, which is Mistsplitter Reflection. It is designed for Ayaka and has a very heavy focus on infusion with elements, and that Keqing will also be able to take huge advantage of, especially the Electro build. Now, I'll go through each of them one by one, and if you want to just listen to the conclusion, my conclusion is that I believe these 3 kinda works as pieces, so you must get all 3 to work together in order to bring Keqing's power level up. I believe the thing is definitely true that her power ceiling has been higher, will be higher than previous versions. However, I believe most people will not be able to achieve that. But with that said, because I will still put heavy focus on how Keqing can use this new artifact set, because I believe even without the 5-star sword, the set is still very good on Keqing just as it is. So first, let's talk a little bit about the damage buff for Elemental Mastery. Now, if you aren't aware, Elemental Mastery for non-transformative reactions, so basically all elemental reactions with the exception of Vaporize and Melt, has received a buff. Damage-wise, it is almost like double the number for the reactions, which is good for a lot of people, but not exactly for Keqing. Electro-wise, the biggest beneficiary is definitely Fischl, with Beidou also receiving some benefit. The problem with Keqing is that she won't be able to use that Elemental Mastery a lot of the time, because she is going to be the main DPS on the field, which means a lot of the time she will be the one applying the first half of the elemental reaction, which is the Electro in this case, and she won't be the one to actually apply the elements that causes the reaction. So in this case, Elemental Mastery will not take into account when an elemental reaction is caused. If you aren't aware already, Elemental Mastery is only calculated when you are the second character that applies an elemental tag onto an enemy, in turn causing elemental reaction. Let's use an example here. When Keqing uses his E to apply Electro onto an enemy, then Xianling drops Goomba to apply Pyro onto that same enemy, overload is occurred. And when that happens, Xianling's Elemental Mastery is taken into account for that overload damage, not Keqing's. In order for Keqing's Keqing's Elemental Mastery to take into account there, you must do it in reverse. However, practically speaking, Keqing is on the field much more of the time, which means it is very difficult for it to happen consistently that Keqing is the one proccing the elemental reaction rather than Xianling in this case. Now with that said, let's move on to the second point, which is the new artifact, what I like to call the Gladiator 2.0. The 2-piece is the same as the Gladiator 2-piece, which is increased attack by 18%. The 4-piece, however, I believe is somewhat crafted specifically for Keqing. After casting an elemental skill, the character has 15. If the character has 15 or more energy, they lose 15 energy, and normal charge plunging attack damage is increased by 50% for 10 seconds. Now, if you take a look at this, Keqing's ultimate only costs 40. Which means her max energy store is only at 40. Her ultimate after casting that grants her an energy recharge buff, and on top of that, no matter how good your build is, you probably have some roles in substats that rolls into energy recharge. So this leaves Keqing at a very easy spot to fulfill the requirement of having more than 15 energy. And for Keqing, her ultimate can cast, her elemental skill can cast once every 6 seconds, which essentially means even if you only get this active every second elemental skill, you're still having an uptime of 10 seconds and only a downtime of 2 seconds. This pretty much allows her to keep this up at all times. Now, of course, the huge disadvantage of this set is that this set does not provide any electro damage bonus, so it is kind of hard for this set to work. However, again, if we're only talking about this set, you can run physical Keqing with this set as well. Of course, we don't know if this outdamages the Pale Flame set, we'll have to see that. But for now, this set could look like a potential very strong set for physical Keqing as well. But again, the huge disadvantage, you do not have elemental damage bonus or physical damage bonus working to the 2-piece of the set. So instead, your physical damage bonus or elemental damage bonus is purely relied on the goblet that makes it up, which is around 50%. Now moving on to the third piece of the puzzle, which is the sword. Now if you're unaware, this sword is going to be Ayaka's lore sword. It could also work very well on Keqing. At level 90, this sword will have 674 attack, which is, I think, among the highest attack among even 5-star swords in game. However, the crit damage is only 44.1, which is rather low, because for the Primordial Jade Cutter, it has above 40% crit rate, which is, if you count value-wise, equivalent to about 80% critical damage. So for this weapon, the passive is that you gain 12% elemental damage bonus for every element, and receive the Might of the Mistsplitter seal. At level 1, the seal provides 8% elemental damage bonus. At level 2, 16%. At level 3, 28%. The elemental damage bonus is corresponding to that person's elemental type. So in Keqing's case, everything would be electro elemental damage bonus here. The character can gain 1 stack by the following methods. The first one is normal attack deals elemental damage, so that is by infusion, which Electro Keqing will be very heavy on. That stack lasts 5 seconds. Second one is by casting elemental burst, which lasts 10 seconds. Now Keqing won't be using this one a lot because if you're pairing this with the Reminiscence of Shimenawa set, this is probably looking at the longer stack. So you will cast Elemental Burst, gain the energy recharge, and then after your energy is above 15, you will proc E to get the damage bonus, and at that point, you would have 2 stacks active from this. Now the third one is energy less than 100%. Now this can pretty much be kept at pretty much all times regarding Keqing, because if that is the case, then Keqing will be losing a lot of energy with the 4-piece set of Reminiscence of Shimenawa, which means Keqing will have this set pretty much active at all times until she wants to cast her out. Now this weapon again is the lore weapon for Ayaka, but Keqing will be able to take a lot of advantage of this. And this is what I'm saying. This is the last piece of puzzle that you need, because this is the set that provides the elemental damage bonus that you need to make the 4-piece of Shimenawa worth it for a full-on Keqing build. Now, of course, without this 5-star sword, Keqing without that extra elemental damage bonus can still do pretty well with the increased normal and charge attack, because that will be her main source of damage output. However, I believe this Mistsplitter's Reflection is meant to work very well with the Reminiscence of Shimenawa on Keqing, because Reminiscence of Shimenawa provides the damage buff on normal and charge attack, whereas the Mistsplitter's Reflection provides the elemental damage bonus that is missing from the 4-piece and the 2-piece of that set. So in total, my conclusion is that if you're able to somehow get your hands on both of these, Keqing will be able to have a very high floor ceiling. Her power level will definitely increase if you're able to build this correctly. However, I believe if you don't have both pieces, then and if you're already have other DPS, I still would not recommend building Keqing because, again, she is a 1.0 character. She has kind of fallen out of the meta. Of course, you can still use her. There's nothing against that using Keqing, and she can still do damage fine and too good for most content. However, still, if you're purely wanting to invest her for damage, big numbers, that probably won't happen. Especially if you're a new player and you have other 5 stars or other 4 stars with high constellation to invest into. I still would not recommend going for Keqing at this moment, simply because the same arguments I would make for not going for Klee during her rerun. These are old characters. These have been power crept by a lot. This sword, if you have it, you'd rather spend it on Ayaka than Keqing. And for Keqing wise, with this sword, with this artifact set, she will be able to shine. However, if you're missing one piece, her damage numbers might just go back to normal tier 1, tier 2, mid of tier 1, top of tier 2 damage numbers. That is all the information I have for you today. If you like the content, please consider subscribing. Thank you and have a nice day.